Jeff Owen.
Yes, sir.
From 10th Ave North. 10th Ave North. Why did I call you 10th Ave North?
It's abbreviated. It's a long name.
That's the street version.
Yes.
10th Ave North. 10th Avenue North. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah.
Made a Music Podcast, man.
It's an honor to be here.
Yeah.
I listen to the podcast on the reg,
Well,
usually when I'm driving or mowing my yard.
Okay. So is that like, for me, I do podcasts when I'm doing dishes.
Oh, yeah.
And when I'm doing laundry, which for me, podcasts makes unenjoyable tasks really enjoyable.
Huh.
So
okay.
I don't know if you enjoy mowing the grass or not. But
I do enjoy mowing, but
Okay.
it's isolated. Like with kids, I'm sure there's you're just interrupted. The dishes are banging.
So
I need to focus.
Do you have what do you call those? Like shooting headphones?
No, I use my in-ears.
Oh, using okay while you're mowing. Okay,
that's
gotcha.
amazing.
That's awesome. Well, man, really quick, and I do want to dive into this, but I just think there's an interesting tie-in with the podcast because, as we'll talk about later in this episode, you've now got your own publishing deal as a songwriter. But can you tell us a little bit of how that maybe came about?
Yeah. So I play guitar in 10th Avenue North. For anybody who doesn't recognize who I am, you might not even recognize the band. But so 12 years ago when the band was getting signed, talking with labels, publishers, managers, we were sort of thrust into this situation of meeting all these people and, okay, who do we want to be our label? Who do we want to be our manager? And it was a very rare situation. I don't think that it happens to a lot of people. It was a blessing.
In terms of getting to choose, actually.
Yeah, just having multiple options. But Chad Segura was one of those options for publishing, and he was it EMI at the time?
Probably if it was 12 years ago.
Yeah. So we met him for Mexican food, and I remember enjoying, our time talking with him. And so we decided to go with our labels publishing. And fast forward 12 years. 12 years ago. 12 years ago.
Yeah,
no.
12 years
That's
later.
when we met Chad. Yeah, later. So I'm mowing my yard probably, listening to the podcast. And it was an older episode at that time, but it was your panel of was a film and TV panel that he was on. And he was talking about it, and it was something that I really was interested in and I was writing for and I just love doing on the side. And I just remember him talking about, his experience with film and TV. And he was like, I used to do a lot of it, but now since I'm with Centricity, it's more church music and CCM focused. I'd like to do more. I guess I would just need the writers or artists. And it was real quick at the end. And I thought, oh, interesting. I should just reach out to him. So I did. Hey, remember me? I'm doing film and TV. Let's hang out.
Yeah.
And he later told me he got that and he was like, okay, cool. It'd be cool to catch up with Jeff, but everybody's doing film and TV.
Yeah.
So he didn't even listen to the link that I sent him, which he later admitted because it was hilarious. He was like, yeah, I'll go to coffee. We went to coffee and we got to talking, and he actually felt like I had an understanding of sync and film and TV. Yeah. And we just kept talking, and he actually listened to the music and loved it. And so here we are. So it's kind of all thanks to Full Circle.
Well, Chad, if you're listening or viewing,
we love you, Chad.
We love you, and you owe us a 5% royalty on that. No, I'm just totally
his cut, not mine.
His cut, yeah. That's awesome, man. Well, let's dive into the actual interview. I wanted to preface it just because I think that's an awesome story, and I love anytime that we get to hear. Because, for all we know, I do this podcast just because I love having these conversations, and I'm such a fan of learning. Mm-hmm. And figure, okay, well, might as well record it and put it out because other people probably would benefit from it too, So those stories always are exciting for me to hear.
Yeah. So. And I did have a shoe in the door from a prior, engagement with Chad, but I think ultimately it was an opportunity kind of presented itself. Sure. And I just, took a step, and because really he didn't have to sign me just because I'm in another band or doing whatever. Sure. I was actually trying to convince him that what I was doing on the side was cool too.
Yeah.
And my role in the band had sort of nothing to do with it.
Sure.
So those options are available, I think, to everybody.
Yeah,
not just someone already established.
That's the thing. I think a lot of our listeners probably hear these stories and don't even realize that we're doing this because these are actually actionable things. And so that's where a guy like you hears that and he's like, oh, why don't I just call the guy? You know, and obviously not everybody has a relationship, but you at least still had to take action on an opportunity that presented itself. So good on you for that.
Thanks.
But yeah, let's just dive straight in. So what was your first dollar that you ever made personally in the music business?
I wouldn't call it a dollar. It might have been more like a sandwich. Hey,
it depends on the sandwich. It might be worth $5.
Yeah, back in high school, me and my buddy Will, we started this band, and we worked at Mancino's Pizza and Grinders, and they did this annual Christmas party every year where they like invited all the local Mancino's in or whatever. And
where was this?
In Anderson, Indiana.
Okay.
So so we talked him into letting us play the Christmas party, and we covered Third Eye Blind, Jumper, and we covered probably Smash Mouth, and, just whatever. And
like All Star and all that stuff.
I'm sure it was bad. We're just jamming out in the restaurant, but I think they paid us in food.
Yeah, hey, that's payment.
But yeah, I mean, it was fun, and I think that sticks out to me as my first.
Yeah. So between gig. That and 10th Avenue North, which I assume at that point you were, full-time in it, or at least you had intended to go full-time. What was the journey between getting paid in sandwiches and being a guitar player for this nationally acclaimed, signed touring band?
Man, that's a fascinating question, because I feel like there's like listening to your podcast and meeting people on the road that do music and talking to professionals, there's never one route that everybody sort of finds. It's like the secret hidden path to success or whatever. Everybody's journey is different. So mine went from Mancino's Pizza to I moved down to Florida to try to get back into school, and that's where I met the band in West Palm Beach, and a just passionate worship band. Like Mike is a great communicator, and I remember them being just like, wow, this is legit. Like, I believe what they're saying. And it didn't work out, so I moved back to Indiana to try to get back into music. And I had toured with an independent band. If you're from the Midwest, they were called Fisher's Net, later AM Drive. And I
remember AM Drive.
Really?
Who was your bass player? What was your bass player's name?
The bass player was Nate, and he later went on to play for the Elms.
Okay. Yep.
But I traveled with them as like, I just wanted to travel, so I was on the road with them. This was in between high school and college.
Yeah.
So I'm backtracking a little, but I just traveled in the van that summer and just help them set up, and just learned so much just being in it. Just saying, I'll go for free, feed me at McDonald's or whatever.
Yeah. That was becoming a pattern.
It was the food. Yeah, it really was. It was that college thing. Like, I'll do it for food. Where was it? Yeah. So, doing that, I tried to go back to school. It didn't work. I moved back to Indiana to do more music. And my best friend growing up was John McLaughlin. It still is John. And he's an incredible singer-songwriter and piano player. And I wasn't his level of performance. So, I knew that. We all kind of knew that. But I ran sound and did some road managing. I booked some shows for him early on. I don't know. That sounds like fun. I'll do it. I want to do that. And gosh, I auditioned. I auditioned for Kimberly Perry, who used to be signed to Sparrow, and now she's in the band Perry. I remember I had a friend from college who now works with Toby Mac's management and Philip, and he was like, "Hey, man, I don't know. There's this artist." And I auditioned. I flew into Nashville from Florida, and I drove over to Greenville, Tennessee, and met her family, and her twin brothers that are in the band were just kids. And I remember it was a presidential election. Oh wow! For George Jr.
Yeah.
And anyway, the audition went okay. I don't think I did that well, but super sweet family. I didn't get the gig, come to find out, and then she got dropped and became this big country star. But and then another buddy And here's the thing. It's always a friend of a friend of a friend, and just somehow just jumping in. I feel like if I look at a pattern, it's something presented itself and I just kind of went for it. And the second opportunity was auditioning on bass for Joy Williams when her Genesis record came out. And I only did that because I was friends with my buddy Darren Rail, who knew B. Thornberry, who was her new road manager and going to be playing guitar too.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, man, we were leaving Nashville. I was just hanging out, and he was like, hey, you want to audition for Joy Williams? She's this new artist that I'm working for. You know, for him, she was new. I'm like, okay, yeah. And I was like, hey, do they need a bass player? Because I love playing bass. and he asked B, and they said, yeah, we're auditioning drums and bass. And so we just learned the songs together in Indiana, and then we drove down and auditioned, and we both got the gig. And so we toured with Joy for 1.5 years.
Wow. And
right as she ended her Christian career and went into mainstream, which is kind of interesting. That's happened twice in my life now.
I was gonna say there's also a pattern there. You've got Van Perry, and then you've got Civil Wars.
Yeah.
So, like, basically, whoever you play with goes on to become like a huge country star. Is that
Yes.
kind of
that's funny.
not that Civil Wars is country music, but yeah.
Folk, yeah. But yeah, so we played for 1.5 years, and then she left the Christian music scene and moved on. But it was a fun time, man.
Yeah.
I didn't have any responsibility other than showing up, and man, it was serious hanging going on. It was awesome.
So was the Joy Williams gig the first moment that you were full time in music?
Yes, and I was still living in Indiana at the time. You know, I got that gig, but you know, dude, I remember living in Indiana with 4 dudes, and we were all paying like $187 in rent, which was so cheap, but I was struggling to make that, you know. And so I think there's always been a side hustle along with what I've done musically in order to keep doing the music. And it's a blessing to be able to do it and enjoy it still. It's really hard to do music when you have to make this amount of money. You've got to survive. I mean, that's just so hard.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you come to Nashville, and every musician you meet is also a waiter, is also doing this other, you know, design company thing or whatever.
So what were some of your side hustles along the way?
Oh, my word. Let me see. When I joined 10th Ave 12 years ago, we got signed, and I was living with Mike, the lead singer, and 2 other dudes in a house. And bro, we got signed, and this is probably what your listeners don't want to hear, but we made so little money. We toured with Sanctus Real, our first tour, and I think we each made like $30 a show.
Wow.
Or maybe less, $25 per show when you break it all down. You know, 5 band guys, management, booking, you know, we just sold some shirts and here's the leftovers. Yeah. So I worked a side hustle with a label. It was back when vlogs were really popular. Is that still a thing?
Well, I was gonna say, are they not
video?
anymore?
I don't know.
I feel like people are still vlogging.
Yeah, I'm out of the
loop.
That realm,
what
but
the kids are doing.
Yeah. I mean, but I downloaded Final Cut.
Yeah.
And just sort of learned how to use it, and they'd like swing me a couple $100 to, you know, hey, here's all this flip cam footage, if you remember those things.
I do remember, yeah.
You know, edit this down into a 2-minute or 1-minute vlog, you know, transitions in music, and that was
so it was like for other artists, basically?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I did one for Casting Crowns. I did one for Leland.
Yeah.
Crystal Myers, if you remember her.
I do.
But so there's always been a side hustle. Even now, like, even with the band, I mean, we've reached this level of quote unquote success, but you know, at the end of the day, like, I love making music, and I want to try to make as much of it as I possibly can, and which kind of, you know, leads us up to now with working with Chad and Centricity and just writing and just trying to do it.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't necessarily realize that, you know, being a band member, it can be all encompassing, but you still have, you know, at times it's not the most creative gig because you're showing up and playing the same set every night, right? I mean, essentially.
Yeah.
And there's not huge variation there. Obviously, you're making records. That's creative. There's some writing that goes into that and some production that goes into that. But I love that you found this other creative outlet. Like, when did you start developing this sync thing? And is it just you, or is it like an artist, alter ego, or is it like a few guys?
Well, going way back, my brother went to Full Sail down in Florida to do music production, studio production, or studio engineering. That's what it was. Yeah. So that's when I first heard of Pro Tools, and I think it was version 6 at the time. And, here's this thing where you can record a guitar pass, and if you don't like it, you can go do it again and again and again and again. And I was like, this is incredible. Like, I remember being in my closet recording guitar and my brother recording me. There was an SM81 that we borrowed from the church, and he did this thing where he's just loop record. You get to the end, go back, do it again. It's just automatic, and it just puts, I think it put it in a playlist. And eventually I did like 40 of them. and I like, the music's going, and I like open the closet door when my brother's like just asleep at the chair. And I was just filling all these playlists. Anyway, I was hooked. Like, he showed me the ropes, and like I got the LE version and whatever. And, I've been doing Pro Tools and recording for ages, and I love just that technical side of things and the creative possibilities with it. And so, I mean, everybody loves movies, everybody loves film, and to some degree, and I don't know, it's just a passion thing. Yeah. Doing that and trying to figure out, what works and what doesn't work and what could work. And it's just another level of creativity for me. And does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Is there another half?
Yeah,
to that
totally.
question?
Yeah. How did you end up discovering that, writing music for sync was the lane that you wanted to go for? Oh, right.
Yeah. Okay. So with sync, it was kind of like, there's the band, and we're doing what we're doing. We're all in. There's a lot of downtime on the road and sometimes at home. And it was like, man, what could I do with all this time? There was a year, man, where we were playing a massive amount of golf on the road. Like, we were playing like the dollar courses, where it's like $1 a hole or less, or who has the hookup. We were just playing all this golf. I was getting pretty good. Yeah. And we were loving it. But I realized, like, oh my gosh, all this, like, what am I doing? I'm not going to be an incredible golfer. Like,
yeah, you're going to go get your PGA card after that.
Yeah. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I need to just refine my craft and just do what I love. And I was thinking, like, how could I do it without, conflicting with the band? Because I still want to do the band. I'm all in with the band. How could I do it on the side but do it well? And it seemed like sync fit the bill.
Just stylistically with what you were into?
Yeah, stylistically, growth potential. Because, doing two things, they're always going to butt heads. Sure. And this seemed like the best option, that they could both be fruitful and separate and harmonious. Yeah. Yeah. So, I've with Chad, we've got 2 monikers that, like, I won't reveal the names of, because I'm really trying to keep it completely separate. Like, okay, I don't want it to be like, this is Jeff in 10th Avenue North, or the guitar player from that one band, or like completely separate, because we're also signed to a label. Sure. Yeah. And once, there's that cross-pollination concerns start raising. Sure. Yeah. But it's fun, man. And it's kind of cool. It's like this, like, secret. That's pretty cool, though. That you can fun. You can be this secret little professor dude in the corner making music. And so what's the journey been like that so far? Obviously, just, fairly recently signing the pub deal. How do you approach writing music for film and TV? Like, what's your process like? Man, usually it's like I'm taking out the trash and, like, this phrase comes to mind or something. I'm just, you're doing the mundane, and, like, your brain goes to this creative space. I don't know. I can't really explain it, but a lyric will come to mind, or a melody, and I'll go, oh, what's that? And I'll just sort it out in my mind, or I'll pull out my voice recorder on my phone and, like, bang on my oven and like, like sort it out and come back to it later or keep thinking Yeah. Because then eventually I'll get interrupted, for whatever reason. But the creatively, and it's like, what is that? What am I trying to say? What's that phrase I'm looking at right now? How could that be used, either for the band or just another, a pop write or film and TV or, that sounds like this. Huh. That would be good for a Prius commercial. I can picture it now, or whatever. So.
Yeah. The song's called Energy.
Energy. There you go.
That's it, right?
Pure.
Pure energy. It's awesome. So talk a little bit about, because I think a lot of what I'd like to get to is just this idea that, what are some different things that members of a band can do to expand and grow their musical career and find new opportunities. Because, a lot of people don't even realize that there's all these different things out there that they could be.
Outside of waiting tables and.
Yeah.
Man, a buddy of mine, David Dietrich, who plays for Colton Dixon, comes to mind. He, as they're traveling, he'll do lessons, guitar lessons on the road through his socials. Hey, I've got slots open during this time in this city, or he'll go lead worship at a church, or he'll maybe do little seminars like on the road, which is really cool. It's such a creative way to...
Like guitar seminars or like...
Yeah, I think there's seminars.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't. Maybe they're just lessons.
Yeah.
But, and we were talking about this before we hit record about things that the band is doing now that's sort of in addition to what we do. And
that's so you're not the only one that's doing...
Yeah.
Other things.
It's crazy. A few days ago, Ruben, our bass player, just got his real estate license.
Yeah.
So another buddy of ours, David, Poindexter, he just got his real estate license, Devin Poindexter, and he was playing for Colton as well. Not anymore, but it's possible to have this side hustle to keep doing what you love and not feel like you're trapped or you're making it because you have to, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think with creative people, there's such a dynamic between fitting in a box and doing what you love and being able to support yourself. It's just such a weird...
Sure.
We heard John Foreman say it once, that we're at this intersection of faith, art, and commerce. And we're just constantly dodging traffic. And it's so poignant because... how do you keep doing? I think that's what your listeners are all about. Like, how do I do it? How do I keep doing it?
Yeah. And
where we are at now, and sort of the other end is, how do we keep doing what we love to do? You're a writer and producer, and you've got a podcast, and you've got these seminars that you do, songwriting things, and all this other stuff in order to fuel the whole thing. And so back to our band, Mike, our lead singer, is writing a book. He'll come out with a book next year.
Wow.
He loves to communicate. That's his favorite part of the show is getting everybody in the audience to go, oh, wow, I see.
Yeah.
I understand God a little better now. He loves that part of it. So he's writing a book. So, it's just crazy. Our keyboardist, Brendan, is big into the real estate game. I think you know him.
Yeah.
And it's not like he's not sitting on a pile of money. He's just investing and getting loans and being strategic.
Sure.
And, there's a lot of time to kill on the road. You can sit on a laptop for hours sometimes. And if there's Wi-Fi, man, you can have a whole side business going. But anyway, to wrap that up in a nice bow, your free time, I feel like, can really contribute to what you're doing. I just got into Fortnite. I don't know if you played that game.
Never even heard of it.
Oh my gosh, bro! It's like this new gaming sensation. It's free, like on Xbox. You just download it, or whatever. It's addictive, but
I'm looking at my guys. They probably all know about it.
Yeah,
right
they're all
now,
like,
so,
oh yeah,
yeah. They're nodding their heads. Yeah.
But I mean, I could sit there for hours playing Fortnite. I don't have that kind of time in my life with family and kids and traveling, whatever. But I could. But what am I doing?
Yeah.
That's where I realized, the golf. It's like, what am I doing? I could still do what I love, but keep encouraging it to grow and move. And I sort of just realized, like, if I have 2 hours of free time, I could spend that playing Fortnite or watching Netflix or whatever, or I could go and just try to see if a song idea comes up, or an old one that I had, trying to develop that just a little bit. 2 hours, come up with a drum beat and a pad sound, and then come back to it.
Yeah,
and I feel like it's kind of better that way too. I'm sidetracking, but to come back to it and go, oh wow, that does work, or oh, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
Once you have that time of separation, the next day, got some time, go back into it, open something up, and take a look at it.
So good. So do you have any maybe tips or advice on how to navigate? Because you actually said it really well. The two things that you do exist harmoniously together. But I think a lot of people struggle to find and create something that does work. That's not just like obviously we have a lot of things that we do, but it's always the struggle is keeping the main thing. So do you have any tips or advice or strategies with how you navigate that?
Yeah, wow. That's an interesting question. There's this interview that Quincy Jones did a little while ago, and he said, like, I've never done anything to make money. He's basically like, I do it because I love music. He said he didn't even do Thriller for the money. Michael Jackson's Thriller. He's like, when you do something for money, God walks out of the room. And I'm like, I've got some theological complications with that statement, but I understand what he's saying. And judging by his language in the rest of the interview, I don't think he's a really convicted, evangelical Christian or whatever. But sure. I mean, the statement is pretty.
It's a great statement. Yeah,
it's pretty true. Like, I think it's just daily finding that balance of asking yourself, like, why am I out here on the road? Is it to encourage other believers in their walk through the music that we make, and find some stragglers along the way and try to get them to realize that what we're saying is believable and point them to a higher truth? Or is it the paycheck? That's a stark difference. And I think it's just that's the believer's struggle with what you do, your vocation and your calling. We're all called to make disciples, and how do you do that with music? Yeah. And paying your mortgage or feeding your family. How do you do that? That's a big question. Like, I think we all constantly ask ourselves, and so ask yourself that question.
Yeah.
To answer your question,
It's a great way to answer it. Yeah.
Work at Mancino's Pizza and Grinders, and keep making music and play shows and just do it. There's no key that you're going to find and it's going to unlock this door and you're going to skyrocket into whatever you're wanting to do musically. For me, man, it was auditioning and it was traveling on the road and getting paid in sandwiches. And I stumbled across my favorite worship band, and they happened to ask me to play and join the band later on. Several years removed from when I met them. It's just time, and God will send your little boat down the river. You know,
so good. Let's jump into our full circle 5. Number 1. What is the most common book that you recommend people?
I feel like books can be broken down in 3 categories. There's like self-growth, there's spiritual growth, and then there's just recreational reading. Okay.
So give us one from each of those categories.
Ooh, one from each. Okay, I'll give you, So with my spiritual growth, for musicians, I would recommend No Compromise, the story of Keith Green. Incredible book. I mean, it will change your life. If you are a musician and you're a Christian, this book will change your life. Wow. The other one for personal growth would be Creativity, Inc., the story of Pixar. Have you read it?
So good.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
It's a game changer.
It's, in a creative environment and just even learning about yourself and dealing with creativity and rejection and participation. Yeah. It's a huge insight. And then recreational reading, I don't really read. I think that kind of gets broken down into whatever pops up in my Facebook feed, and that article sounds interesting.
Yeah, I was never a big fiction reader until I guess C.S. Lewis. That's
Sure.
about as far as I go in the fiction genre. But I'm with you too. So. Number 2, failure only turns into a lesson if it changes your perspective or your behavior or the way you look at things. So in that sense, do you have a favorite failure that you can look back on and, man, that was a turning point for you?
Yeah. So way back when I was in college, I had my Taylor 414 CE that I got when I graduated high school, and my dad got me. And I was writing songs, and I thought I was hot stuff. And I wanted people to like me. I wanted people to like my music. And I even signed this little, I guess it was a record label. My buddy Kyle and his other buddy got this grant from the business department in college to start a business because they had the best proposal or whatever, like $2,500 or something. Go start your business, and we're doing a label. So I was the artist. And I made this independent record, and I realized after doing so many shows and just trying, I realized, what am I doing? I just want people to like me. I just want people to accept my art. And I realized how fleeting it was. And I just was like, I just don't want to keep doing that. It feels so empty. And then they made me buy back the CDs. I don't know. They were graduated from college. I don't know where that money went, but I had to pay them back. I don't know. It was silly, but so that was my favorite failure because I think had that worked out, or had I just kept going and just try to get people to enjoy what I'm doing, like it would have sent me on this bizarre reality track, and I don't know where I would have ended up. But God just said, this isn't gonna work, man. You're just in it for the wrong reasons. Yeah.
Before diving in fully and going, full time into the music business, what was the number one thing that held you back?
Oh, it was myself. That's anytime I've tried to do music and be accepted or be validated, it's just a no-go, man. It's just a dead end. The most surprised I've ever been with creating music have just come in through ways that I did not necessarily orchestrate or have anything to do with. They just showed up. And that's huge. I mean, because that just proves that God is working in my life for me.
It's good. So what is one thing that's working for you right now?
One thing that's working for me, creatively, I would say it's just coming to terms with my weaknesses. And what I mean is, like, in production and songwriting, I think I tried for so long to like be everything to all people, and realizing, like, man, I have a hard time hearing intervals. Like that's not a common thing in what we do. And I think for so long I didn't want people to realize, like, I have a hard, like, I got to sit down with a song and I've got to really figure out the progression to play it. But some people can just go, oh, that's 1, 6, 5, minor 3. Oh, you're going to a flat 7, It takes me a while. Like, I can hear some, but just be like out in the open, like, I'm not the quickest at that. A lot of people are so fast with that, but like, that's a gift, and that's a discipline that they probably came to playing piano as a kid, and that was their process. But I could listen to a song and tell you that the snare is sampled and the singer probably has a mustache. And I
want to know how you know that, because that's pretty amazing. If you're
using the bristles on the whatever. Sometimes people with mustaches sound like
that's incredible.
But there's other disciplines that my brother going to Full Sail and falling asleep while I'm recording, like learning that and that route.
What to do when your engineer falls asleep.
Yeah. Especially when he's not getting paid and he's related to you. But
so good, man. That's a great answer. So lastly, if you woke up tomorrow morning and this whole business, this thing that you've built, the band, all of it fell apart, and you had to start from square one, but you could do anything you want. You have all the existing relationships and knowledge. Where would you start?
That's a tough one. That's a really hard one. So, like, I still knew you and Chad Segura and everybody, but like, it's just me and nothing else.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I would just keep hanging out with people and probably still retreat to my bedroom and write songs, come up with melodies as I'm taking out the trash.
Yeah.
And I just keep going, just realizing that the future's unwritten. Like, it's God will do what he's already done, just maybe in a different way.
Yeah. It's a good answer. So is there anything that you're working on currently that you're pumped about you'd like to share?
Oh, man. Yeah. June's going to be busy. I don't know when this is going to come out, but so the band, we renegotiated our little insider music business information. We renegotiated our deal with Provident, and in that we wanted to do an imprint label, and they let us do that. And so we found this band called Land of Color, and it's two guys that we just love their hearts, their music. It's just, everything is just so rad. Traveling, you come across so many performers or musicians and artists, and there's so few that you're like, man, that I want them to be in front of people. I want them communicating to massive amounts of people, because I see where their heart's coming from. Anyway, these two guys are a part of that Land of Color. So we're recording their first record and gonna have meetings to try to figure all that out, and getting our first band on our imprint out.
Yeah.
At the same time, the band's gonna do an EP.
Yeah.
At 10th Ave will have an EP that'll come out in the fall. So we've got to get cracking on finish tracking that, and so much, and then still writing with Centricity and doing the sync thing. So
it's awesome, man. We got a lot going on, and congrats on huge single, man. Control's been a massive song.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
So good. So how can people interact with you?
I mean, on Instagram, my name is Jeff Owen with an underscore.
Okay.
After that, and I'm on Facebook sometimes. Twitter, rarely. I think my name on Twitter is Schmeffo, but you don't need to follow that because I don't really do anything.
We'll link to your Instagram.
Okay,
so we'll do
rad.
That.
Yeah, and then the band is 10th Ave North.
Yeah.
On pretty much all of our socials. So
that's awesome. Well, Jeff, thanks so much for being here on the Made It Music podcast.
Yeah, it was an honor. Yeah. It was so much fun.